Hey everyone, how's it going today, and welcome back to another second stimulus check and second stimulus package unemployment benefits extension update, and happy Friday, and also happy early Halloween, or happy Halloween / happy late Halloween if you are watching this after this. But basically in today's update, I want to basically give you guys a brand new update about what is going on in terms of stimulus checks and stimulus package, the current status, everything to know, especially with next week being what we probably can anticipate as one of the biggest week of this year, elections. As crazy as it is to basically think that it is, literally in a couple of days, I believe over 80 million people have officially already voted. Maybe comment down below if you have already voted. So it's really exciting stuff. But basically, I want to give you guys a brand new update about what exactly is going on with stimulus checks and stimulus packages on unemployment. But I also want to maybe spend most of this video talking about something that I kind of am a little bit afraid of next week, and it's a little bit of like a prediction / fearful thing. And this is not something that you will find from a news article. This is something that I personally just like deep down feel may happen next week in regards to like stimulus check, stimulus package, and how everything's gonna come together, especially with the elections coming up next week. So we're just gonna get right to it. But if you are brand new here, consider subscribing, hitting the bell for future stimulus check, stimulus package, unemployment benefits extension update. Remember to smash the like button if you can, because it's always greatly appreciated and supports it. And feel free to comment any questions, thoughts at any time at all. Maybe when you think we'll see stimulus, who do you think is most responsible for stimulus? And I did make a couple polls on my channel page if you're interested. Some of you guys already voted, so thank you guys so much for voting. Okay, with that being said, let's get this video rolling. So for the current update, I think the only real big news that has really recently come out is that Nancy Pelosi and Stephen Mnuchin recently, this was literally less than 24 hours ago, they recently just wrote letters to each other. It's probably like what you would anticipate. I'll probably just even throw out the letter right here. But basically all it really is that it just kind of talks about, it's the letter that they each write to each other, and all it is they're just blaming each other for the different situations, what went wrong, what happened. That's also kind of why I did make a poll, so feel free to like vote for that. If you, or even just comment down below if you do have an opinion about who you think is most responsible for why to this day we do not have a stimulus check / stimulus package, whether this is Trump, Pelosi, McConnell, Mnuchin, or just someone else in general. Basically the idea, what it is that Pelosi just believes that Mnuchin was not able to compromise on a couple of things. Mnuchin also believes that Pelosi was also not able to compromise on a couple of things they want, and because of that reason now there is basically conflict, political heat back and forth between each other. So now I want to talk about something that I think is really relatively interesting, and it's not going to be something that you're going to find from a news article, but it's something that I personally am predicting that I'm actually personally very afraid of. Aside from the fact that Halloween is this week, so obviously there's going to be a lot of things to be afraid of, because we don't know especially what this time. But on to more serious notice is that one of the biggest things that I'm actually relatively afraid of is because I think that at this time period, it's relatively well known that one of the reasons we don't have stimulus checks or stimulus package is really because of a lot of the politics that's going on. And at this time that we currently stand is that Trump and Pelosi still communicate optimism. Again, it's what they say. According to Trump, he basically says is that he's planning to finally approve, sign, and make a deal with stimulus checks and stimulus package as soon as he wins the election again. My biggest fear though is that I fear that a lot of these people might purely be doing this. Again, it's all speculation. However, there have definitely been absolute events and things that have happened to really lead someone to speculate this, is that my biggest fear is that if all of these people are really motivated right now to do it purely because of political gain, and again, as a lot of people predict, is that maybe Pelosi's only doing this because she's afraid that Trump is going to look good if we get the stimulus passed before the elections, and Trump wants to pass the stimulus checks and stimulus package because he wants to gain voters to save himself from the election. My biggest fear is that because a lot of these people are really driven because they're trying to do this because of the elections, my biggest fear is that if the only motivation they really have is because of political gain and because of elections, I think that by next week, every single person's true colors is going to start to come out, because by then we will now actually see who actually does win the election, who actually does become the president, who actually is in power now. And if that ends up happening, my biggest fears is that I feel that next week, no matter what ends up happening next week, about half of this country is not going to be happy. And I don't think there's a single way to avoid that right now, because it's pretty clear that right now as we stand is that obviously about half of this country is totally against Trump, and then the other half of this country loves Trump. Like, they're willing to take a gun and bullet just to do anything to support Trump to the very, very absolute diehard end. My biggest fear is that by the end of next week, if we are already seeing so much political violence, unrest, protests on the street, whether this has to do with the lockdown, social justice, Black Lives Matter, all that kind of stuff that's going on, my biggest fear is that next week is that when we finally learn the election results, there may be some kind of loss of motivation that may end up slowing the stimulus checks and stimulus talks even longer. Again, it's not something you're going to find from the news. It's something that I just fear personally is going to happen, and I'd love to hear your opinions about what you think is going to happen by the end. And then also on top of that, because of that reason, because there's obviously a lot of heat, half of this country next week is not going to end up happy. And I feel that it's especially true with whatever side ends up losing the election and is not happy. They may now experience some major loss of motivation, because I can already see it easily happening right now that if Trump loses the election, I can easily see him saying something like, well, you know, I plan to pass a stimulus after elections, but the story is that, you know, I didn't win, you guys didn't vote for me, so now I can't do anything, right? And then I can see the same thing on the opposite end too, that if, you know, something goes on with Pelosi, then she's just gonna say, well, you know, these people need help, but I can't do anything when they don't support our agenda, right? I can easily see something like that happening, and something that I'm relatively afraid of going on next week. And again, it's kind of like what I've said in past videos is that if the Republicans win, then the reality is, and assuming they keep the Senate as well, there is basically going to be almost no change in power. So if they were not able to do a stimulus check after all of these months of negotiation, I cannot visualize how things are going to really be able to change. And I've kind of talked about it in past videos, so once again, subscribe if you are brand new here. But if the Republicans win and everything stays the same, there's really going to be no change of power. So I can't visualize how they're planning to really change things up if they were not able to already do it now. You know, the fact that they say that they have to do it after the elections. On another notice is that if the Democrats actually win, as I've mentioned in past videos, is that the likelihood is we're probably going to see an even more generous stimulus package, and then if they truly have a clean sweep, we may even be able to bring back the first HEROES Act. However, before that can actually happen, they're probably going to have to first go through the actual transition of power, which doesn't happen until January 20th of 2021. My biggest fear is that by the end of next week, there's either going to be a loss of motivation on one side, whichever side, you know, doesn't actually win the elections, or there may end up being another kind of political conflict, whether they contest the results, whether this country ends up in just some kind of civil violence of some kind that might delay the stimulus package / check even longer. And then probably the even bigger one is because at this current time, the pandemic cases are rising, the stock market is starting to dip. It hasn't really drastically crashed, but you definitely start to see a lot of red days. And my biggest fears is that by then, the worst part is that every single day they stall, more and more pain and struggle and suffering is going to continue on. And obviously it's already been happening, but I mean particularly in the next couple of weeks with so much that's currently going on, especially with the fact that there's literally about 2 more months of this year left. But that's basically what I wanted to share in today's video. Maybe feel free to comment and let me know what you guys currently think. It's kind of just my personal thoughts, but thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well. Remember to vote. Happy Halloween, happy early, happy Halloween, or happy late Halloween, depending on when you watch this. And thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. Well, probably the next time we'll probably make a video is probably going to be next week. So see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much again, and yep, stay safe and take care.